Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin. I'm so excited for you to dive into this episode with the hosts of the popular Skeptic Metaphysicians podcast, Will Rodriguez and Karen Ensley. They have some great stories to share about the mysteries they've experienced since their spiritual awakening and the role of skepticism and discernment. You're going to be inspired, awed, and even get some laughs from this episode. Will and Karen are the dynamic duo behind the Skeptic Metaphysicians podcast, where spiritual seekers and curious skeptics alike come to explore the mysteries of consciousness. Will, a self-described metaphysical maverick, brings curiosity, humor, and visionary drive to every episode, guiding listeners through topics like energy healing, near-death experiences, and esoteric wisdom. And Karen balances the ride with her intuitive insight, grounded discernment, and heart-centered presence, making even the most far-out ideas feel relatable. Together, they ask the big questions, challenge assumptions, and invite us all to explore one truth, many paths. Their warm, witty chemistry has made their show a go-to for spiritual exploration and soul substance. And it's safe to say that if you love the Soul Elevation podcast, you're going to love their podcast too. So we'll get started in just a moment, but first, please be sure to check out all the great resources at karagoodwin.com. You can find out about my new book, Your Authentic Awakening. I have free meditations under the free resources section. You can learn to meditate, get your own personalized meditation, and sign up for my upcoming online summit. I have so many ways for you to nurture your spiritual evolution. And if you're loving the podcast, it would really mean so much if you send it along to others, subscribe, and review. I'd really appreciate your support. And now enjoy this episode.
By the way, I'm not sure if you're aware, but congratulations on making the top 100 spiritual podcasts on 1 million podcasts. I'm not sure if you know about that or not.
I don't know. Where did you see that?
Actually, on Twitter, they posted the link to it, and I went to go see. Keeping my fingers crossed, and sure enough, we were there. But so were you. So it was nice to see a familiar face.
Well, thank you. Congratulations to you too.
Thank you. That was not a fishing for compliment moment, I promise.
No, of course. But when did that come out? Was that a few months ago?
Yesterday, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, I definitely haven't heard that. So,
okay.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into it. What was the source again?
It's
did you say?
1 million podcasts. I'll send you the link so you have it.
Okay. Thank you.
See it, sure.
Okay. Well, welcome, Will and Karen. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for the invitation. We're thrilled to be on your show.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to come on yours too. We're going to do a little pod swap, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, so you have to tune in for part 2 later on in our show.
That's right. So I want to start by exploring the one truth, many paths philosophy, which resonates so deeply with me also. But I know that this is kind of the foundation that your mission is built upon. So tell us what this means and how it informs your work and passion through the Skeptic Metaphysicians podcast and New Reality TV.
Sure. Just what it sounds like. To give you a little bit of background, before I dove into this world, I was very much one of those guys that knew exactly the truth of life in every single way, and everything outside of that scope was absolutely wrong. How could they possibly? Until I, like many people, had an existential crisis right during COVID and realized, what am I doing? So we started doing the Skeptic Metaphysicians because I was seeking to find. I looked myself in the mirror, did not like what I saw. I didn't like how judgmental I was, how angry I was all the time. So it was an attempt for me to wrap my head around what is the truth. All right, I figured if I talk to enough people, the truth will emerge. And so I have one of my favorite stories that I learned a while back. If you don't mind, I'd love to share it with you and your audience right now.
Please.
One day, God was standing on his mountain of truth, and he was looking down on the world, and he likes what he sees, so he leans over a little bit to get a closer look, but as he does so, he loses his footing on the mountain of truth, and as he scrambles to catch his footing, a few pebbles from the mountain of truth fall down onto the world, And he goes, uh-oh, and he looks over the edge to see what just happened. And as he's looking, he sees all the people from the world running, grabbing these pebbles, raising them over their heads and exclaiming, I have the truth. When in essence, all they had was one of the little pebbles from the mountain of truth. So when I realized that this was the reality of it all, suddenly it opened up everything.
And we really saw that reflected in all of the interviews that we've had, because we've had, a few hundred, and we have interviewed some incredible people in so many different modalities. We are still learning about new ones that we had no idea existed, but there is a very central theme or message that we're getting in these interviews, and really it's about love and light and community, and it's all the same. They're saying it differently, but all of these people are telling us the same thing. So that kind of reinforces, what Will was saying and everything that we've already been talking about, the many paths, because like I said, many different modalities, but it's all the same message, just different languages. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that resonates with so many people, because even on the spiritual path, when you talk about you thought you knew everything and you knew where, if you didn't believe it wasn't true type of thing. I presume you mean, was that more in the material world, or was that from like a religious spirituality perspective, or just everything?
A little bit of both, actually. I was raised Catholic, but I wasn't really truly a practicing Catholic. But I had the tenets of Catholicism drilled into me over the course of my upbringing. But mostly it was in the material world, because I wasn't as bought in, I guess, to the religious part of it, that thought process came in. It just seeped into every part of my life. But remember, one of the biggest arguments that Karen and I had was when we were going to send our daughter to preschool. And Karen had heard that
researched.
She researched. Sorry, my bad. So sorry. She researched the fact that the best preschool in our area happened to be a Presbyterian school, and I was aghast, because there's no way that I'm going to allow my child to be fed the dogma and the fear-based thought processes that come with that type of organized religion. And we had this knockout, drag-out, only to find...
It was so bad.
Only to find years later that, wow, was I just so myopically thinking and looking at things, because she had a wonderful preschool and they didn't brainwash her into thinking anything. She was able to actually come up with her own modalities. Now she's 14 now, so she's got a little bit more of a sense of what's real for her. And it has nothing to do with anything that we taught her or the school taught her. She came up on it on her own. And that's another example of how everyone has a different path, and we support that wholeheartedly.
One of the differences during this argument, I remember you were just, these people just believe so blindly. And so, yes, maybe they believe things that, we didn't believe or don't believe or did, but it's kind of nice to have that amount of faith in whatever you believe in, just to know that that is your truth. And you just couldn't see it. You're just like, well, it's not my truth, so it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because this, of course, we recognize this with religion, with spirituality, especially in the context of like our podcasts, for example. That's what we're exploring regularly. But this happens even within the scientific community, or even within like an agnostic or an atheistic viewpoint, where it's like there's almost so much of this like clenching to what you know, even when you don't know it, like even when you're claiming that you don't know, it's like, yeah, but there's still this clutching of like, well, it can't be because I haven't seen the proof, or I haven't accepted the proof, or I believe that people are making up what they're saying that would give me an inkling of truth. But I think a lot of people can relate to that too, where we even on a spiritual path where it's like I know what I know, and I believe what I believe, and that's what's right. And I know, like for me, when I kind of before my proper awakening, but like as a child, for example, I was always interested in near-death experiences, and I still am. I love near-death experiences. But I remember the first few that I read, I thought that they were bringing back exactly what happens when you die and what will happen when I die and what happens when everybody dies. And it was not exactly what I had learned in church. And to be honest, I didn't grow up in like a really dogmatic household. We didn't go to church like all that often. But we had a church and we went sometimes. And what I learned in near-death experiences was a lot more personal than what it felt like in church when I was hearing these ancient stories and I didn't know who the people were and I didn't have a lot of context for the stories. Right. It was so personal, but whether it involved Jesus, whether it involved angels, whether it involved like deceased loved ones who had gone before, that was the truth. That was what was real. And so it was confusing when I'd come across a new one and it didn't have Jesus in it, or it didn't have an angel in it, or, it took place flying through the air. Like, what's that about? I've never come across that before. That can't be right, but it was this like starting to reject things that I hadn't already been exposed to because it was new and it didn't fit. And so I have come to understand through my journey of, like you're saying, like the ability to just hold many truths. And I've never heard that before, the analogy of God being on the truth mountain and how we get these little bits of it, these little expressions of a bigger truth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's so important. Yeah. So was there one key moment for either of you or both of you that really kind of cracked you open to a new reality?
I don't know that there was one particular moment. I think it was a combination of a bunch of different moments. But ultimately, I think I am one of those hard-headed people that had to have the proof. That's the name of the show, the Skeptic Metaphysician, because I needed to I wanted to believe, but I needed to wrap my head around the concepts that I was being told. And so I had to see it, feel it, experience it, be told it repeatedly before I started to open up that hard shell that said, no. The programming that we've all been a part of. In fact, we have been a part of programming our daughter. We catch ourselves doing it. Is so ingrained in us that it's hard to overcome that sometimes, especially somebody who, I grew up in the New York area, and people can be a little misleading there. They can be harsh, but they can be beautiful and wonderful too. It's just a matter of perspective, which direction you want to look at it. And I was looking at it from the negative side of things. So everything that I saw was tinted with that thought process. Mm-hmm. And over the course of many years, we've done the show for 4 years now. Finally, the experiences that we were having really showed me. I guess there is one that really blew us both away. The nut.
The nut.
The one that.
Oh, the nut.
This was more.
It's thinking like an edible nut.
Oh right, no. This is more like in the vein of.
The proof is in the pudding. See it to believe it.
Yes, definitely see it to believe it. But it was about how we hop realities constantly. I didn't think that was possible. Right? We have one timeline, one reality. But we were doing an interview on location one day, and these microphones are connected by the particular nut to the arm. And if you don't have that nut, you're out of luck. You have to hold the microphone. So we were setting everything up. And as I was screwing in the nut, Karen was sitting next to me, right as we are now. We're on chairs. And as I'm doing it, the nut falls out of my hands. And we both see it fall, bounce on the floor, and vanish. And we're like, what the heck? So we were actually on our all fours looking for this thing.
Looking under furniture. I took apart a little rock fountain. Maybe it fell into that. I mean, it was a white rug, so you would have seen it. But we're like, putting our hands, kind of plushy, putting our hands through the rug. People were helping us, pulling couch cushions off.
Tearing apart fountains. It had a fountain in there. She was pulling the brick by brick, pulling it apart, finding this nut. And we were sitting like this, right? You know how your pockets get, they get flattened out, so there's no way it could be anywhere on us. So we said, okay.
Guess we're holding it.
Yeah, we're holding the microphone. So we did the microphone holding it, and then when it was finished, we were putting things away. We had an audience who was watching at the time. They came to us and they said, hey, I'm being told, because of course this audience is an audience of awakened folks, I'm being told that you need to check your pocket. So because want to be nice, I of course, of course, why didn't I think of that? Thinking to myself, there's no way.
No physical way.
There's no way. We're sitting down, my pockets are folded in on themselves.
We saw it hit the ground.
We saw it hit the ground and bounce. Okay, but I will indulge them. And I put my one hand in each pocket. And when I did that, my face fell. Because in my right hand, when I pulled it out, was that nut.
Oh my gosh.
Kara, I'm telling you, there's no way. There is no way this thing could have gotten into my pocket.
That gives me chills.
Oh
my goodness.
We talked about it for weeks afterwards because on my way to the interview, I was kind of waffling and I just said out to the universe, I need to know. I need to know if this is because we're starting to kind of lose faith. Wow, be careful what you ask for because I literally cannot explain this. And thankfully, I have someone who's a witness to it all. It's not just me going crazy. A bunch
of people, actually.
There were a bunch of people, but she was right next to me, and she firmly confirmed there is no possible way it could have gotten in your pocket, other than we hopped realities or the universe just I don't know. I can't explain it, but the difference between
it's a mystery.
Yeah. Difference between me that now and me then is I'm okay with not knowing.
Yeah.
Whatever the mystery is, it's kind of the fun part of it all, right?
It is so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Karen, would that be your story too, or do you have another one that comes to mind?
I'm very different from Will. I have never not known. And it's not, I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school. It wasn't super like dogma down your throat. We didn't go to church much as kids, but I just would have little things happen. I think probably when I really look back about it, probably the biggest maybe experience is a ghost literally saved my life.
Whoa,
so that,
I can't wait to hear about
emphasize that whole feeling. Yeah, no, it's crazy. So I'll just try to put it in a little nutshell. I had an apartment with a roommate, and she was out of town one weekend, and I had a little television in my bedroom back in the day when they were small, And so I'd fallen asleep with the television on, and I woke up and someone's turning the TV off. And I'm like, for my first thought, one of Christy's friends is in here turning the TV off. And then I'm like, oh crap, this is not. So my plan was just to roll over, pretend I'm sleeping. And so meanwhile, like kind of what's going through my head is 1,000 Our Fathers, oddly enough, because I hadn't been to church in years, but that starts going through my head. And me thinking, okay, this person now knows I'm awake. They're going to leave. They just came in to steal stuff. They're going to leave. But actually he came around to the side of my bed. Fortunately, the side that was away from the door. So I just kind of, even though my plan was to still be sleeping, my body just kind of, stretched, got up. I went out to the front door. That's kind of when it was just like the movies. Because I get to the door and I like land on the deadlocks and I open them and I go to open the door and the chain's locked. And I'm just like, at this point, I just panic, like, trying to get the chain open. Shut the door, get the chain out. I run upstairs stupidly into this little quad, and then he comes up, and the neighbor, I'm banging on the doors. Finally, I got into someone's house before he got me, obviously, so all was good. And then we found stuff that was there to tie me up, and a knife and all this stuff. So the reason I say a ghost...
that was a stranger?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the reason I say that a ghost saved my life is because I remember what I was dreaming right before I woke up, because I was the girl that could sleep. I'm from Florida. I slept through hurricanes. Like nothing would wake me up. So to hear someone like just pushing the button of the television to wake me up, that's very surprising. I would sleep through alarm clocks. I mean, just you name it. So in my dream, I was in this old house and I was talking to a ghost, and it was a woman, and she was communicating me through knocking sounds. And somehow what I figured out was so weird. It was that I had to take her head and put it back with her body so she could leave the earth. So I found her head in this drawer and put it back with the body, and I guess all was well. So I'm researching this dream just in general. What does it mean? And it was basically, if there's a ghost there and you're communicating and it's not fearful, it's a warning. And then I did some more research about how in certain areas when women were condemned as witches, they were decapitated and their bodies were separated from their heads because the belief was they couldn't ascend that way. I had no knowledge of this. Wow. So I feel like somehow I was helping her, and she was helping me, waking me back up, like wake up, get out. And really ever since then, I've had this relationship with this female spirit. I call her Lily. I don't know what her name really was. And she appears every once in a while and does little things. But yeah, so that was probably the biggest example, I think.
Oh, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
But,
wow. What great stories. One of the things you touched on very briefly was when you woke up and you were pretending to sleep, you said Our Father, you said the prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Is that what you mean?
Yep.
And this is really powerful for me because in the last 4 nights, I've had a dream, a thematic dream that has shown up that is, I'm driving a car and it's two different ways. One, I'm driving straight up a mountain face, completely vertical. It's slippery. It's icy conditions. And I'm in this old sedan and I'm going straight up and I'm and I have people with me, I've got my daughter, my mom, and a couple of other people. And I'm I don't know how long we can do this. And the car starts to tip backwards. And I say, everybody pray. And as soon as everybody starts praying, it goes back up against the mountain. And I felt that dream, really stuck with me. I really tried to kind of integrate that. And I felt that was such a powerful message. But last night I dreamt again that I was driving. The traffic was really, really tight, bumper to bumper and kind of precarious, just dangerous. And I go to make this turn and I realize that the turn that I'm making, I'm now on beams. I'm on beams up high, like a building that was under construction. So I'm having to drive on these beams and I start to slip off the side and I start praying and I immediately get righted. Immediately I go back on the beams as soon as I remember to pray. And both of those for me, the driving, being in control of the car, but then also the car, not coming out of control, but then remembering that I've got the power of prayer and the immediate effect of prayer. And then hearing you being in this very real danger, but also there's a sleep element to it. There's a dream element to it. You chose to pray and then you came out of harm's way through that. It's just all of this in my world, the construction of reality is very, very powerful through you sharing that. So, woo. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And when she talks about little things happening, they're not little things. They're things that any one of them would go, oh, okay, there's something going on here. But we don't want to take up too much of your time. But things that are just, so it's always happened to her that way because she's been open to it.
Yeah.
Whereas with me, I've not been as open to it. So things don't happen. And that's one of the things that we learned over the course of doing the show is that if you feel that the world is a non-magical place, it is absolutely going to be that way. But however, if you open yourself up to possibilities, the universe is going to go, ooh, all right, let me show you something. And then suddenly, little by little, it opens up more and more until you go, okay, we live in a magical place.
And you really start recognizing it because you can look at something, oh, it's just a coincidence or, write it off or whatever, luck. Yeah. But if you think about it in forms of it's a little miracle, or it's a something. It changes it. It changes your perspective. It makes it so much more fun. It's
beautiful. Yeah, it makes it just so much more fun to live, and it's a beautiful life.
Absolutely. Well, I think you may have just answered this, but I was wondering the role of skepticism, how skepticism and doubt, what role has that played in your journey, especially since your awakening through COVID?
Unfortunately, in this industry, just as any other, there are lots of people who don't have your best interest in mind. So I think a certain level of skepticism, not cynicism, is important when you're looking into these things, when you're trying to find your path. It's really important to discern the way forward.
That's better, discernment, not skepticism.
Discernment, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, there was a time, obviously no longer skeptical. I was very much a skeptic when I first started the show. But over time, I lost that skepticism because I've experienced things, I know things, I have evolved tremendously. The guy that I am right now talking to you is not the same guy that I was when we first started the show, for sure. But there was a time when I lost my skepticism. We considered changing the name of the show because we're no longer skeptical. So it feels disingenuous. Mm-hmm. But then we realized that the show was never for us. Right? We have gotten all kinds of messages and reviews and things like that where people are saying, oh my gosh, thank you for helping me to feel normal. Thank you for helping me to move down the path, find my own way. So though I started it for very selfish reasons, I was trying to figure out my way forward. It ended up that we were helping other people as well. And so at that point, when we were thinking about changing the name, we realized we need to think about it because we may not be skeptic metaphysicians anymore, but our audience is. And so from that point forward, our focus changed. And now it's not about us being skeptical, but rather trying to have these conversations with people in a way that those that might be skeptical, that need a pragmatic way to approach it, can have those questions answered for them. So I do play a little bit of a role in the show. The show's much more, it's lighthearted. We laugh a lot. We don't take ourselves very seriously. We take the topic seriously, but we position it in a way where people hopefully are laughing. We're laughing, so maybe they're laughing at us. I don't know, but
maybe, probably.
But I do play a little bit of a role because I do want to provide that viewpoint,
contrast.
Yeah, where Karen comes into it, and we have different perspectives in a lot of ways, also. But
yeah, so he knows who we're interviewing. He does all the research. He creates the introductions, all of that. I don't know who we're interviewing until we sit down and start talking to them. The reason for that is so that I can be more of a representative of the audience and kind of ask those questions that are going to pop into your mind without that background knowledge leading me to certain questions.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm too close to it. I do a lot of the research, and so I know the answer. So when I'm asking questions, I assume in my head subconsciously that people know the answers.
Yeah, or you can ask them in a way to get the answer out that you're hoping for.
Right, exactly. Whereas Karen might be able to check me on that. So we have the perspective of that. We have the perspective where she's always known, where I've had to have that proof. We have the female-male perspective. So it provides a really kind of a cool dynamic, in that sort of sense.
And Karen, in your evolution, as Will has gone through his awakening, and that kind of the interest in exploring consciousness and the mysteries of the world, like him kind of opening up to this part of you that was already awake, perhaps. How has that skeptical piece worked with you in terms of your own growth? And were there times where that felt frustrating for you, or has it always kind of been something that's helped to ground you, or how's that worked for you?
Well, with Will, it was we've had those challenges, like that argument that we had about the preschool. But I also, I've always believed in different stuff, but I also am I was going to be an engineer in college, very math, science oriented as well. So I don't know. I think maybe change. I don't know if this is really the question you asked, but for me, just learning how many different things, maybe I was skeptical to the amount or to the multitude of different paths that there are. Will talks about jumping timelines a lot, I would not have necessarily thought that was a timeline jump. I would have, said something different. I don't know. And then he has his stories of when he experienced that. And I'm like, okay, maybe, are you sure? And then yesterday, we had gone to or maybe it was the day before yesterday, we had gone to the grocery store. And so he had put away the groceries, and I was making something for my daughter. So I go to pull out, and I was making a cake. I go to pull out milk. We were out of milk, so he bought a new milk. And I grab it, and it's halfway empty. And I'm like, okay, he doesn't drink milk. How could Sienna have drank that much milk? Or, you hear about people going around the stores and opening things. I'm like, oh my gosh. And as I'm thinking about...
And she says, oh, he must have bought a half-used carton of milk, right?
Well, that could happen.
Really?
Well, if you didn't open it, maybe you just don't know how much it normally weighs. So as I'm thinking about this, the carton is getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
What?
And by the end of my thought, it's full on heavy thing. I don't know. I was like,
Yeah.
Will, I think I just jumped timelines.
Yeah, let me just reiterate that we're not the kind of folks that will come up with stories, right? That's not us. We are much more feet on the ground. In fact, asking the questions like, okay, were you drinking when this happened?
So I'm like, Will bought a half empty thing of milk.
Right.
My first thought.
So to hear Karen say that, she's experiencing something recently that she's not sure about, that channeling and all this kind of stuff, and she's always asking, "Is it me? Am I making it up?" Like she's always questioned it. This was never a question. This was, Will, it was half empty, and in my hands it filled up. Oh,
That is so
It was crazy.
wild.
when she says that, I pay attention because she's not the one to say things willy nilly like that. So.
Yeah.
I just wish it happened to me.
And I was just
go
going to say
ahead.
another thing that a lot of our audience, I don't know if they probably know by now, but we have a lot of very different beliefs about a lot of things. So we don't just agree with each other all the time.
Different from each other.
Yeah, different from each other. Yeah.
Yeah. People
Yeah.
automatically assume since we're married, we do the show together, we have this new reality TV platform together, that we would believe the same things. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Yeah. There are many, many times when we actually choose not to talk about something because it's going to be a trigger point. But the way, that's another way that's helped us to realize the many paths, one truth mentality, because I see her and I see her reality. I see her experiencing her reality and I'm experiencing mine, and they're very different, and yet they're both so incredibly valid. And then you start thinking about, our thumbprints, right? And snowflakes, and how no two are the same. So how could we possibly have the same spiritual path if we are completely individual people down to our thumbprints? So then it starts kind of making sense at that point.
Yeah, I love that. And you started by talking about skepticism and discernment, and that, when you're in, and this is a really important point, because for people who are on an awakening journey or who are on a spiritual journey, there can be that temptation to just, especially if you're early on and you feel like everybody is ahead of you, you're jumping into these waters that it feels like people already know what they're talking about. And so you just trust, and I know that, I've had my podcast since 2018. I have had guests on that I was wowed by, that I was so excited about. And then time goes on and things start to come to light. And you realize like, oh, these people weren't who they said they were. They weren't what I thought they were. I've had to take some shows down just to not mislead people. Like once you know the truth, then it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry for, if people found them through my platform, but the only thing I can do at this point is to not let that happen to anybody else. But I presume like you guys have experienced things like that too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we do the same thing. We take them down. In fact, there was a point where we debated whether or not to put them up. You get a sense for someone when you're interviewing somebody. We had someone who came in and right off the bat, they threw a truth bomb at us that it just was impossible to accept. And then the interview, where does it go from there? But so we debated for months whether or not to release that episode. As it turned out, when we did publish it, but we published it with a, hey, this might not be your truth, but it is a truth. And so from that point forward, we decided to really position it as, we're going to bring this to light and let the audience figure out for themselves whether it resonates with them or not. However, to your point, if we find something, which just recently happened, actually, just a few months ago, that someone that we thought we knew really well suddenly turned out to be not that. Through no fault of their own, perhaps, but regardless, we did have to take it down because we felt it would be irresponsible to have our show be the referral engine for someone who wasn't quite ready to provide the services that they were saying that they would, just because we saw things that we didn't resonate with. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then, you have the people that come on, they just want to sell their book.
Oh,
they want to sell
yes.
their program, and it's $10,000 or whatever.
Yes.
And so stuff like that. Even if they can actually do what they're saying they're doing, our goal is to help people and to have people that are broadcasting messages of help. So if you're making it just about sales or something that's inaccessible to the majority of the people, that's not our vibe.
We totally understand. Everyone needs to make a living.
Yeah.
So we are 100% on board with, let's have a conversation, and then by all means at the end we'll talk about what it is that you're trying to move. I mean, it's just it's an exchange of energies. We're happy to do that. But when every answer talks about, well, you could see that in my book. Oh, good gravy. Can we just not talk about your book for just a second? Just one question. Just one question without has nothing to do with your book.
Right.
It gets tiring sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it is interesting. And the other piece to it too, and I believe that you guys are conscientious about this too, because I've also seen things with your programming with like, we're really trying not to stir up the fear. Like, let's move forward to expand our consciousness, but bring the fear, let's keep the fear out of it. And I've noticed with content, where I've had people that I really respect, and they've been fantastic conversations, but ultimately it is more of a fear-based approach. And what's so sticky as a content creator is how popular that content is. And that is a really interesting dichotomy for people who understand the role of fear and what that and the place for it in our ascension, but how it can be so hooky and how it can draw people in. And I don't know if have you noticed this as well, because this is one of those things where it's like, oh, well, if you want the followers, then go that, like, they've definitely got something, but that is a problem that we need to solve as humanity, you know?
The sensationalizing.
There's no question. No. In fact, we talked about programming, right? It's our programming that makes us click on the things that are intriguing. And unfortunately, the things that are the most intriguing to society these days is sensationalism. It is, how many times have you seen someone whose thumbnail says, absolutely unbelievable, it can't be missed, right? Life-changing, like the thumbnail is just so sensational. And then you listen to the show thinking, oh my gosh. And then you go, where's the message? Where's the message? How's it, right? And that's unfortunate, because it does work really, really well. The algorithm on YouTube, for example, rewards that kind of thing. And so people they gravitate towards the eliciting of the fear response in order to get the clicks, and they get famous or popular or whatever because of it. So we specifically went out to create something that was the complete opposite, because there's so much fear, there's so much division in the world right now that, again, selfishly, I don't want to speak for Karen, but I needed content that I knew I could go one place, and every bit of content was going to be safe and educational, and it would help me in my spiritual journey to discover different paths or to learn lessons or to whatever it is, but not ever be served something specifically because I wanted a click, right? So all of our content partners that come on New Reality TV, we enter into agreements where the content won't be specifically designed to elicit a fear response. Now, we understand shadow work is necessary. We all have to work through things to get better, to advance, to evolve. But if the content is presented in a way that is meant to help someone process these things, then we're good. But if it's just meant to be, you'll never believe who just got possessed and died, or things like that, it doesn't resonate. So we also go ahead.
As I say, not to mention so many of those, you see that the faked hauntings and this and that. So it really takes credibility away from the people that really are working with light and with energy. So we don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we have those tenets. It's no fear, no politics. We don't want to have divisive conversations, and there's not much more divisive than politics these days, unfortunately. And really, we don't want people to disparage each other, because we truly do believe the one truth, many paths. And New Reality TV is meant to explore all these different modalities. So if you come on as a content partner and you start downplaying Kundalini, astrology, because it doesn't resonate with you, then the next content partner that's coming on after you might be a Kundalini practitioner or an astrologer, and now it's awkward, right? So we just, if it's not your truth, it's perfectly okay, but it might be somebody else's. So just accept that.
And one of the good, I guess, benefits, side effects of this platform we've created. So Will loves all the content. He loves like getting in there and watching the meditations and the shows and the conversations, and they're wonderful. For me, I love the meetings with our content partners.
Community.
Because we have a community outside of the platform where they can all kind of get together, and they're starting to, we have someone going from Thailand to Alaska to be on each other's shows. It's really becoming this amazing family. So I can be in the worst mood, got in a car wreck, whatever. And I'm like, oh, God, one of these meetings. And I come up to it, and within like 10 minutes, I'm just like, and like the energy and just the amount of love pouring out of all of these people. It's really incredible. It's my favorite thing about it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Tell us about New Realities TV. So you've told us about the tenets and the purpose of it, but tell us what it is.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's a new streaming platform that we have created. We just launched it January 6th, so not long ago. But it's like a Netflix meets Gaia, without the fear response. Right? Gaia is a great platform, but a lot of their things are not in alignment. Alien abductions and demonic possessions and things like that. Conspiracy theories is not really our thing. So it's really it has television shows, it has films, it has meditations and activations. We're working on an audio stream as well, like a radio aspect to it. We have a 24-hour international broadcast that you just want to go and be served a show to you. You can do that, but if you prefer to dive into the on-demand platform, you have all the content there. And then people can go live to it too. So every once in a while you'll see, in fact, we have one content partner that goes live every weekday. And he just does a show live from the platform, and people can ask questions and engage and things like that. So, and then we'll be doing
we recently had a summit.
Right.
It was a weekend long, 8 hours a day. It was fantastic. We also have a quarterly magazine that we publish, an e-magazine. So we're planning some retreats, and it's really just, it's becoming so much more than just a platform. It's really becoming like a new reality.
And that's the thing, to Karen's point, is really, New Reality TV is really a community, because it's not just the content partners. We also have opened it up to those that come and are part of the audience to interact with the content partners. And so it's really meant to be a place where you can go and know that you're safe, that you're not going to be served something that's going to trigger you, that you can dive into the content to explore and learn in a safe environment, where you are going to know that every single person on the platform is there specifically to help you and your consciousness raise.
And we do have it. We have it as a membership because we obviously have to cover our operating expenses, but we're keeping it really low because we do want it to be accessible. We have three tiers, so we'll always have some free content for everyone. They'll get the first 3 episodes of every show, and currently we've got 40 something shows on there, and we've got more coming in. So that right there is a ton of content. Then the next level, it's only $5.55 a month, and you get access to
$7.77.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. It was going to be $7.77. Sorry. So you get access to the broadcaster, and then all the content as soon as it's dropped. So more than just those first 3 episodes.
So weekly episodes, yeah.
Yeah. So the weekly episodes, and then the higher level, it's only $11.11. I got that one right. So super affordable, and with that one, you get access to the outer community portal where you can be in touch with the content partners. Yeah. So that one's really exciting.
Yeah, but the free part is that's the most important thing for us, because our goal is to get the messages out. Right. This time around, we felt like I'm not psychic. I've been dying to astral project and never been able to do it. I'm not really healer. Right. We're not. That's not what we're here for this time around. I feel that this time, my life, this time around, is to be a messenger, is to help broadcast these messages, specifically because that's our day job. We're TV producers by trade. And so we've taken our expertise and we have been called to bring our skill sets into the world in this way in order to help get the messages out. So even if no one subscribes to the thing, we've done our job because we've got the messages out as broad and as wide as we possibly can, because they're so important, especially these days.
That's beautiful. Well, how can people find New Reality TV and your podcast and more about you to connect with you?
New Reality TV, it's very simple. It's just the website, newrealitytv.com. And once you get on there, just feel free to pop in, explore, check out the broadcaster, look at some of the shows. And then for our particular show, it is also on New Reality, but you can also go to skepticmetaphysicians.com and you can see all of the episodes there. And you can also find them on all of the podcasting platforms.
And I have to apologize because when I started the show, it was just me. So it was a Skeptic Metaphysician. So the website is skepticmetaphysiciansingular.com.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I am screwing up left and right today.
It's okay.
Well, we took our daughter to the airport this morning at 4:00 in the morning.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we were up at 3. It's her first trip away from us,
Yes.
and so I'm a little frazzled.
Yeah,
so I apologize for my screw ups.
And we're not freaked out about it at all.
Not at all.
And what type of shows do you have on New Reality TV? Can you give some examples?
Ooh. You name it. We have, they're mostly reality shows in terms of not like those reality shows that you're thinking just now, but basically we have some that are just TED Talks or someone's just doing like master classes speaking to you. We have others that are like this. They have interviews and they interview experts in particular fields. There are others that are activations that are meant to activate things inside you. There are others that are meditations. That's all they are is meditations. Then we have one particular, he's a Thai Buddhist monk who goes around to all the holy sites in that area of the world and gives tours and then does breath work or Qigong or different things that go along with it. So there's all kinds of different shows. So
The plant one is cool.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we have a lady who records plants and their vibrations and their energies and the music and creates music out of them. So she's out in the field and this is what a lily sounds like and this is what whatever sounds like. It's really cool.
And then we have another show that is a medium and a channeler, and they actually they bring in they call it dead talks. So they bring in different entities, and so what he does is he picks a person, doesn't tell her who it is, and then gives her clues. Okay, I need you to find. So she asks, "Is it man or woman?" And he goes, "Man." And then okay, so everybody who's a female, leave the room. Leave the room in terms of spirits, right? The spirits leave the room. Mm-hmm. Okay, this person lived in the 1800s. Okay, anyone who's more modern, leave the room. And eventually, she needs to, by the information she's getting, she says who it is that she's speaking to. So it's very different types of content, because some of the stuff is going to be, we have some films. We just released a film today called Lucid, about lucid dreaming that is very highly produced. It's beautiful work. Mm-hmm. And then we have content it's very, very relaxed, the production quality is just like what you're watching here, or maybe even a little bit lower.
And we really do celebrate those shows, because we feel that right now, especially after COVID, everyone has become so disconnected and people are craving that connection. And it's so much easier to connect with someone that looks like you and feels like you and sounds like you than someone who is like, super fancy superstar with this really super highly produced production. We do have some of those as well. We've got something for everyone. Yeah. But we did want to have that opportunity for that really kind of granular connection.
Yeah. Our unofficial tagline is regular people going through spiritual awakenings, helping other regular people going through spiritual awakenings. So.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing to help to raise consciousness on the planet and to make this content accessible for everybody. Thank you so much for being here today, and it's been a beautiful discussion.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for providing a beautiful platform like this to help spread the word. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Soul Elevation. Please take a moment to think about someone in your life who might be uplifted or have their curiosity sparked by this content, and send it on to them. Let's keep sharing high-frequency, empowering content to reinforce the highest potential for humanity. And I also invite you to subscribe to this content. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you for the next episode of Soul Elevation.